This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in beautiful San Diego today, joined by a council member from that beautiful city. His name is Cate, and he's now a veteran on the city council. You were elected in 2014, but in the era of term limits, you are now, I guess, in the middle bunch. There are 3 new members that are coming on. Talk us through that. I mean, it is something to consider.
Yeah, it's a larger freshman class coming on. When I came on, there was only 2 new members.
I see.
But it's good turnover. I had a chance to meet with all of them prior to them being sworn in, and they have a lot of energy. They're very proactive, and so I'm looking forward to working with them and hopefully agreeing on a lot of issues that will help move San Diego forward.
So let's talk about an issue that has been near and dear for you. Since we've known you, you've been a leader on public safety questions.
Yes.
And, you know, it's interesting. So usually when the economy takes a dive, crime goes up. And then when the economy improves, crime will drop a bit. We've seen the reverse. During the recession, we had crime rates dropping, and now we're coming out of the recession, and crime's ticking up a bit. What's going on?
Yeah, so growing up, my father, and the reason why I'm passionate about public safety is my father was a 27-year veteran of the CHP and recently retired.
Fantastic.
And so I grew up in a public safety family, thank you. And we're fortunate to live in a very safe city. Even though we're the 8th largest city in the country, we are a very safe city. But people want to feel safe in their neighborhoods. They want to know that their kids are being able to get to and from school in safe routes, that we're not having crime in individual neighborhoods, burglaries, things like that.
But what do you make of this trend? Because it is compelling to consider. I mean, we were in the just the dumps, the economic doldrums, and crime is at the lowest level we've seen in centuries. And then all of a sudden we're coming out of this, and crime's ticking up. Yeah,
well, we're seeing a lot of new policies being adopted statewide.
One could argue.
AB 109. We're seeing increase in homelessness as well, too. So a lot of varying impacts that can go into this small uptick that we're seeing in crime. But that's what we're trying to address now as a council and a city, is figuring out what those programs are that can alleviate that, or at least get people to understand that they have to be looking out after their neighbors and their neighborhoods.
So let's talk about that, because in the final analysis, San Diego, like any large city, is a collection of neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you hear the metaphoric neighborhood watch and always, you know, keep your eyes and ears open. But you've been active in kind of building that neighborhood community feel, Neighborhood First Coalition as an example.
Exactly.
So as you speak with your neighborhoods in the great District 6, what are you telling them about crime? You want to make them aware, but you don't want to alarm them.
Of course. And what we try to tell them is that you can take safety into your own hands. And you talked about Neighborhood Watch. And the old Neighborhood Watch with the old brown signs and going out to your neighborhood and walking with a flashlight. With technology nowadays, that has transformed. And so we're trying to revitalize these Neighborhood Watch programs in District 6 by utilizing new social media tools, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or now Nextdoor.
Can I tell you, my wife and I are on that site. I don't know, it could cause you a little anxiety.
It could, but it's a new way to interact with your neighbors, and we want to make sure that people are taking ownership of their neighborhoods.
Have you noticed, you know, there are those new devices where you can see who's at your front door, and it films it and records it, and now we're seeing people have on their cams when people steal packages or something, so we know who's doing this. So that's modern technology.
Exactly, and there's new technology now on the Ring, for example, the doorbell. You can actually share those videos with your neighbors.
And that's what people are doing.
Exactly, and so we're trying to get people civically engaged.
And I've heard, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, that part of the reason there is an uptick in crime, it's really an uptick in crime reporting because technology is helping us catch more bad guys.
And we want people to report crimes. Even if you think that, you know, well, it's going to take hours for the police to come or whatnot, we want people to call in and make sure they report that, because it's important for us as elected leaders to know where these occurrences are happening. And we're trying to address it through being proactive and talking with our neighborhoods and letting them know that they have a relationship with us, they have a relationship with the police department, and really trying to commingle and really be proactive in the community relations.
We recently covered on our show the California State Association of Counties Convention. I know you become a leader in the League of California Cities. And I mentioned the CSAC convention because virtually every supervisor I spoke with talked about the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
It's a big issue. And San Diego City and County, I mean, here we are.
Yeah.
Let's talk that through.
Yeah, it is a big issue. And how do cities now comply with the passage of Proposition 64?
Which wasn't close.
No, it was
not close.
Absolutely. The voters spoke very
and here
clearly.
In San Diego, I mean,
even in San
landslide.
Diego. Exactly. And so how do we deal with that? And one of the things that we recently did as a council was adopt a policy that we put forward, which put a temporary moratorium on recreational marijuana businesses. And so the idea being that we want to, as a city, adopt overarching policies when it comes to where we can locate these new businesses because of passage of Proposition 64.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I think there is a misconception about what cities can and cannot do.
Correct.
As you may know, since you're in the League of California Cities, the city of Riverside had brought litigation to allow them to ban medical marijuana dispensaries. And what did the California Supreme Court say? 7-0, yes, because of land use authority. You have the land use authority to do what you just described.
Absolutely. And so we do legalize medical marijuana dispensaries in the city of San Diego. Now it's saying, okay, Proposition 64 is passed. What do we want to do in terms of the policies for recreational? Do we align them with our medical marijuana? Yeah, and so these are the conversations we're having. And we're starting to have those discussions. We as a council have not yet adopted them. But the idea behind the temporary moratorium was to say, okay, if the state begins issuing licenses to recreational dispensaries prior to us as a city adopting formal policies, we're going to be behind the 8 ball, and it's going to be essentially freedom out there on the streets. And we don't want that. So let's have the temporary moratorium until we adopt formal policies.
So let's dig deep. You're a leader in public safety, and so we're looking at marijuana very differently than even 10 years ago. And so is the use of recreational marijuana a public safety issue? I mean, presumably drinking alcohol is a public safety issue, but the impacts are different. Driving while under marijuana's influence, I don't know, most people just fall asleep or have Doritos.
Well, I think in California, you see folks who are coming to terms with it being more of a social norm.
Right.
We as elected leaders need to figure out, okay, now that this is becoming a social norm and it's becoming accepted, how do we deal with this? More than anything else, the questions that we get as a city that I get is not whether or not we should allow them or permit them to exist. It's what do we do about the illegal dispensaries that are not complying with city rules and regulations?
And San Diego's in a unique position is that you have a border, an international border, right at city limits. And so marijuana, I think, is still illegal in Mexico, I think.
Yes.
And so that brings up a whole host of issues that I would presume that you as a city need to grapple with, no?
Exactly. It's dealing with our federal delegations as well, too, federal enforcement agencies. But more than anything else is trying to figure out a way where the public knows what the rules and regulations are, how they can deal with that, where these places are going to exist, where do we want them to exist? Do we want them next to schools and parks or retail centers, things of that sort? And we have to come to grips with that. But we also have to be able to say, if there is an illegal dispensary operation going on, that we were able to act quickly and remove them because they haven't gone through those formal processes that others have gone through. And at the end of the day, people want rules, they want fair play, and that's what we're trying to do as a council.
You can't operate a liquor store without a license. Why should you be able to operate a marijuana store?
And now with the state getting involved too, I think that will allow for more licensing, more regulation as well too in this field.
Okay, his name is Chris Cate. He's a councilman in the beautiful city of San Diego, California, where we are today. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thanks so much for joining us on Local Edition.